You know, everyone, I had my videos responded to, my most recent ones, about the whole Shaggy Daphne thing and will it ever happen. And I appreciate their opinions and all that, but to believe it, who is one of the strong Shaggy Daphne supporters than anybody else, let me kind of explain something to you guys. Just because it doesn't seem like it's going to happen doesn't mean it won't. You see, there's an old saying that people use that say it takes only one phone call. Maybe multiple ones, but actually one major phone call, or at least one major discussion or reasoning or whatever to get the job done. You know, you could point out to the WB and warn them, you could say, look, we understand why you're doing Fred and Daphne, and we're cool with that, but you can also explain that. You can also kind of say, but look, the way we look at it as longtime fans, and there's even some new fans that feel the same way, it's basically run its course, and it's time for a change. Now, you can explain to them, if you wanted to take the time, kind of, just like at the fan fiction forums where these are talked about, you can basically point out all the hints that you found throughout the history of the Scooby-Doo franchise. You can point out all the hints and subtleties that you found throughout the whole Scooby-Doo franchise. Through all the shows. You can point those out and you can say, and you can basically explain that if this doesn't showcase why it's possible they should be together, I do not know what does. Basically, like the old saying goes, all it takes is one little phone call. When you think about it, folks, a lot of shows in media have had similar situations. You take a look at a show like Friends. When that first began, and a lot of people got into it, nobody ever thought that the couples that came to be there, the pairings, the romantic pairings that came to be there, would be, together. Or would happen. No one ever thought it would happen. No one thought it would occur. You take a look at a show like Family Matters. You're always hoping from the very beginning to the very end that the Steve Urkel character and the Laura Winslow character would get together as a couple, and guess what? They do. Take a look at Full House. You got the Jesse character and the Rebecca character. You would never, you look at them and you're thinking, oh, I hope they stay together. I hope it works. And it does. You take a look at, again, Full House. You take a look at the DJ and Steve characters. All right? You think after the Steve character leaves, you think, oh, well, we're not going to get DJ and Steve anymore. Guess what happens at the end of the final episode? Steve and DJ are back together. Does that not answer your question? That positive things can happen? That all it takes is maybe a phone call or maybe the popularity of something, the fan base? I mean, just because it doesn't seem possible doesn't mean it won't happen. I mean, there's all sorts of media out there to where you have someone like Shaggy and get together with someone like Daphne and vice versa. Heck, the best example for me would be Lady and the Tramp. I look at Shaggy as being the tramp, and I look at Daphne as being Lady. Now, when you take a look at those two, you say to yourself, that's not going to work. Those are total opposites. Ain't going to happen. Boom. Right? Now, if you want another example, it's kind of a strange example. Try Disney's Oliver and Company. You have the character of Tito trying to get it on with Georgette. And in a way does succeed. Sort of. That is until the very ending. But you get the point I'm trying to say. Just because you think something's not going to happen, it does. And then, when you take a look at, let's say, using Disney as another example, Kim Possible. You pretty much have an idea, almost right from the start, that Kim and Ron will get together. But throughout the series, they're always throwing you curveballs that may or may not happen. Until you get to the drama movie. And then into the surprisingly last season, season 4. Again, just because it doesn't seem like it would happen, just because you might have curveballs thrown, doesn't mean it won't occur, because eventually it will. Take a look at Tailspin. Another example from Disney. Disney basically took Tailspin and basically hinted majority of the time that Rebecca and Baloo were going to get together. We're going to become a couple. You had so many strong hints, and yet, before you could have a proper finale to possibly indicate that they would get together officially, the show ends. And then, according to, like I say, numerous sources, Disney, I guess the people working on it didn't want to put a family environment kind of thing into the show. Now, and I apologize for the bird in the background. He's going cuckoo right now. But again, those are just some, I guess you could say, some sort of some kind of good examples if you want to look at it like that. I mean, what else could I use as an example? I mean, there's so much that you can think of, so much that you could use as an example. But again, like I said, just because something doesn't seem like it's going to happen, it eventually, all it takes is one phone call, probably one fax, petition, whatever, to kind of explain the reasoning why it should. I mean, believe it. Do you not think there are other Shaggy Daphne fans out there that are not working on the possibility of trying to get this pairing to become a reality? Oh, they are. They are. They are trying to make it a reality. And like I said, there's numerous examples out there that prove something like that can happen. Numerous examples. And, again, you may not think there's numerous examples. You may not think it's going to happen because of the WB right now. But it's going to happen. It just takes time, takes patience. You see, it takes a certain team to come on board and say, hey, what do the fans want? As a matter of fact, if you were to do a poll of what pairing they'd rather have most of, you'd be surprised about what you would get. Now, I'm not denying that, the reason they do Fred and Daphne is because it's easy to recycle and redo and redo and redo and redo. But unless they finally say, okay, let's marry off Fred and Daphne, only then can you say Shaggy Daphne's not going to be. But they've had numerous opportunities, am I right? Now you might say, believe it, you and others might say, well, they sort of did that with the ending of Mystery Incorporated. Yeah, but again, Mystery Incorporated was sort of a reboot, and it was its own continuity. You take a look at all the movies that come out in between, and nothing is connected. Nothing is connected. Nothing registers back to Mystery Incorporated. I mean, when they did the earlier films, if you will, what did they register the most? What references did they make? They made references back to the classics. Heck, you take a look at, Cyber Chase, and you might say that's somewhat of a Shaggy Daphne hint there, right? Heck, take a look at the malt shop scene when they meet the cyber doubles. There's a scene where you have both Shaggy sitting at a table and talking, and who are they talking to? They're talking to both Daphnes. And people will interpret that saying, hey, they could have had both Velmas there, or they could have had both Freds there. But no, they have the Daphnes, which people will interpret and say, hey, you could have chose any other characters, but you put Daphne. So, if that doesn't tell us that, you are trying to hint at something, then what doesn't? You kind of get the idea, right? You kind of get the idea. I mean, the truth is, it's gonna happen down the line. It's got to happen, and I believe it will. I really do, and I think a lot of you guys should consider it's going to happen as well. You just got to be patient about it. I mean, heck, there's one person. I can't think of the name right now. Maybe if I look it up online. Hold on for a second, folks. Let me look this up online. Here we go. But somebody has, for the avatar at the fan fiction forums, they have for the picture avatar, they have Shaggy and Daphne, and you have something like Daphne looking at Shaggy dreamily. Very dreamily, if you will. You kind of get the idea of what I'm saying. I apologize for those people in the background. But like I said, you have somebody. I'm trying to think of the name. I'll probably be able to find it once probably able to know who it is once I see it. But like I said, okay, Shaggy and Daphne sitting in a tree. That's who has this avatar of Daphne looking at Shaggy dreamily or something. And again, I don't know where that's from. But again, if there's an indication there, it's like, why don't you just do it? See, that's what a lot of people want to know. It's like, why don't they just do it? Why not just get it out of the way? And, the point is, again, like anybody, I agree. I agree that right now it's a formula that they want to work with, and it works very well. There's no doubt about that with Fred and Daphne. There's no doubt about that. And again, I understand it's repeatable and everything, but take a look at what they do, for example, in the Sonic comics. If they're willing to pair Sonic off with someone like Fiona temporarily, or even hint at, say, Sonic and Mina, or even, heck, for the gaming fans, hint at things like Sonic and Amy or Sonic and Blaze. And give fans that reason to say, hey, we want to see that. Then why can't, by showing some of these hints and sequences and stuff of Shaggy Daphne, why can't they do it for them? You see, that to me is the question. Why can't they just say, okay, let's do what nobody else is doing. Let's give the fans what they want. Let's give them Shaggy and Daphne. And again, to me, I believe it will happen. I really do. I mean, you may say that the WB is pro Fred Daphne, and right now that might be true. But if they were truly pro Fred Daphne, then why would somebody come up with the scene that they did in Mystery Incorporated episode Night Terrors? You know, they could have came up with something different. Could have had somebody else with Daphne. Could have had somebody else with another girl with Shaggy. But why would somebody come up with that scene? If you know what scene I'm talking about, I'll tell you why. Because they do acknowledge and understand there's a fan base out there. There's a fan base and a supporting fan base out there for this pairing. It's just that right now what they're doing is they're starting out. Basically, again, Mystery Incorporated was nothing more than a reboot in its own continuity, and that's basically, if you want to garner new fans, it's the same with comic books. You know, it's the same with comic books. You know, Ian Flynn, who does the Sonic comics, the certain things that he's done. The certain two big events that he's done. The Genesis story arc, and now currently the crossover. He has acknowledged are mainly for the newer fans, the newer generation of fans, and some of the casual fans. But mainly the newer fans, the newer generation, if you will. And I'm sorry for the kid in the background. But again, like I said, you know, Ian Flynn has acknowledged that mainly, even though he says it's also for the casual fans, mainly the main reason for the Genesis story arc from 226 to 229 of the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book and the current crossover Worlds Collide with Mega Man and Sonic is mainly for the newer fans, for the newer generation. And that's basically why you have Fred and Daphne. Basically for that newer generation, that newer fan base. And apparently the casual viewer and the casual fan. You know. So, you know, that is why, you know, that's happening. But just because it's happening doesn't mean it's going to be permanent. Because even in comics like Sonic, they do go back to what brought him to the dance. They go back to the basics. You know, a majority of the time, they went back to the basics of the Freedom Fighters, and they're going to go back to that again, apparently. They go back to Sonic and Sally being a pairing, because it's worked. You kind of get the idea of what I'm saying. You know, they do give the longtime fans that are basically the huger majority of the comic, of the franchise, they do give them what they want and what they ask for. And that's why, in my opinion, if you were to petition, you were to email, you were to fax, you were to snail mail the WB and the Hanna-Barbera division and say, hey, look, you know, we understand why you're doing Fred and Daphne, but take a look at this, and take a look at this poll, if you will, or something like that, or tell them, hey, or suggest, hey, take a poll, and you'll see what you get. Because, believe it or not, like I said, it only takes one call, or it takes one motion, or several motions, or several intervenes, if you will, for something to happen. So, don't be surprised if down the line it occurs. Because I believe it will. And believe it, you should too. Anybody else that supports Shaggy and Daphne, you guys should too. But, again, that's all I'm going to say. And if anybody knows where that picture avatar for user Shaggy and Daphne sitting in a tree from the fan fiction forum is from, let me know that too. But thank you all for listening. God bless. Take care. And I'm out.